Hannah, how are you?
I'm good, Maya. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Welcome to Law Break. This is your first
Thank you.
interview with me and on Law Break, and I'm very happy to have you as my guest here today.
Thank you. It's lovely to
So,
be with you on this Sunday.
yes, it is
Yeah.
a Sunday. Thank you. I
hmm
mean, we know how busy we are even on weekends, but
hmm
I really appreciate the fact that you're taking the time to chat with me today. I want to put the spotlight on you today, Hannah, because I mean, we both practice, we're based in the same area. I know we practice in all kinds of city, but I know you're based in Ottawa, just like me.
Correct.
And I see you around all the time in court working. And, like I know that you're a hard worker and you work really well and quietly without, being loud and bringing any kind of attention. And that's why I thought, like, I mean, I should bring the spotlight on you
Thank
because
you.
for all the work that you do. So let's start then by an introduction about yourself. Just tell us, when were you called to the bar, Hannah?
So I was called in 2024. I was actually called first in Alberta because I
Mhm.
articled out in Alberta, fun fact. And then I went through the interprovincial mobility process. So I got called in October and I think it was end of September, early October 2024. So still a new call.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
baby lawyer. That's
Baby
very
lawyer, that's
nice.
right.
That's nice. I mean, it's these are very nice years, the very beginning, because that's when
hmm
you're learning a lot in the
Absolutely.
profession. So, what firm do you work at?
Yeah, so I work at AGP LLP. I'm an
Mhm.
associate there. And I have been there since I got called in Ontario. So that's where I've started as a lawyer and it's a great place to work. So
Well,
I'm
and
very
how's
lucky.
it going so far?
It's going well. As you know, when you're starting out in criminal defense, there's so much to learn all the time. It can be, and especially I think coming from another province, that was very helpful in some ways because it forced me to have a deep understanding of what the law actually is, not just the language that we use in court, understanding the basis for court procedures and stuff. But certainly it was a lot, learning kind of the lingo and local practices and stuff of the East region when I came back. So it was a huge learning curve, but it's super fun. I have a mix of trial and appellate files. I love the appeal work, um, but then you get, thrown into the chaos of trial work and bail
Yes.
court and all, from start to finish. So having that relationship with clients is one of the things that I love the most, forming those relationships and, walking people through a difficult time. So anyways, it's going well. It's constantly, busy and it can be chaotic, but there's really nothing I'd rather be doing. So
It
yeah.
can. Okay, well, so let's go back a bit, Hannah, and talk about how did you get into criminal law? What made you decide to become a criminal lawyer?
hmm I was always interested in it. Like I would say I came into law school kind of knowing in the back of my head that that's the area of law I wanted to get into, but I tried to be open-minded. So I did try out some real estate property type areas of law, and I realized quickly that was not for me at all.
Yeah.
And in my 2L year, I was really looking to get my feet wet in criminal law and get some experience. I don't have anyone in my family who's, well, number one, there really aren't any lawyers in my immediate family, but also getting into criminal law felt like a
Yeah.
big kind of hurdle. So I
Yeah.
was lucky to work at Queen's Legal Aid because I went to
Mhm.
law school at Queen's University. So they have a great law clinic there that does, a substantial amount of criminal law. So I worked at Queen's Legal Aid for the summer, my 2L summer, and then that got me hooked on criminal law. And then my articles were very heavily focused on criminal law, and then it's the rest is history.
Okay, so you already had that interest in the area of law, of
Absolutely.
criminal. Okay,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and I mean, how important is that to actually like the area that you're getting into?
Absolutely. I remember someone once told me early on what I did in my 2L year is I scheduled some Zoom calls. It was still COVID, right?
Yeah.
2021 was still the middle of COVID. So I scheduled Zoom calls with defense lawyers in the Ottawa region who were very generous with their time and giving some words of wisdom, a real mix of newer defense lawyers and very seasoned defense lawyers. And one thing several of them said was, you gotta love the work, right?
Yeah.
Because it's so intense that it's so important to really love it and be interested in it. Otherwise, it can be hard to stay motivated sometimes, right? So,
Right. That's true, and it's very important. But okay, we'll talk more about the intensity of the work.
Mhm.
But why did you decide to move to Ottawa?
So I grew up in Ottawa. My family's here.
Okay.
The fact that I articled in Alberta was really just me wanting to try something new for a year,
Okay,
have a
so
change.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And then I did move back, and that was sort of my plan because this is where my family is and my circle is. So, um, yeah, but it was a great articling experience out there. So I articled with Legal Aid Alberta, with especially with the criminal trial group that
yeah.
really um,
That's great experience.
confirmed. It was
Yeah,
amazing experience. Yeah, getting to work closely on a range of different trial files and the types of clients that that team helped were sort of the most like marginalized, the people with the toughest,
yeah.
situations and various, intersecting difficulties, right? Mental health, homelessness, all this type of stuff. So that really solidified it for me. Yeah.
That's very nice. And Hannah, did you have a hard time finding a job in
That was
criminal
something I
defense?
was quite
Yeah.
worried about, especially
Yeah,
articling in another province. I was sort of thinking, ooh, I
exactly.
don't know, it's
Yeah,
going to be difficult. And I think the biggest thing is really just because what I sort of learned was that it's a circle of lawyers that talks a lot, right? So putting
that's
out,
true.
I started by having phone calls with just lawyers in Ottawa. My articling principal in Alberta, she connected me with Neha Chug, and then
Hmm.
who put me in touch with another lawyer, and then
Yeah.
the word of mouth sort of spread, and several firms were looking for an associate lawyer. One of whom was AGP LLP. So I got very lucky. It was sort of lawyers putting me in touch with other lawyers and just the right timing
But
for who was hiring an
networking,
associate.
yeah. But it
Networking,
was very
1000%.
important to network
Yeah,
very early on because that's
yeah,
how you were able to build the connections that
exactly.
eventually led you to the firm that you're in right now.
Exactly.
So the question that I want to ask you though, Hannah, is why criminal defense and not crown work? I mean, crown is, like I'm not saying like the firm where you work at, I'm sure they pay you well, but I mean, for a lot, what we're seeing is that we have uh, there's this trend of the Crown offices across Ontario hiring a lot of new lawyers.
Right.
So what made you want to do criminal defense as opposed to Crown work?
Yeah, it honestly, I was never really tempted to go to the Crown's office, and
Mhm.
that's nothing against the Crown's office. I have good relationships with a lot of the Crown attorneys with whom we work, regularly in the East region. But for me, I guess a couple of things that stick out in my mind. One of them is that when you're a defense lawyer, you have a client, right? Like the Crown doesn't have a client per se,
That's
right?
true.
They work with victims, they work complainants, they work with a number of stakeholders. But I think one of the things for me that I love is I have a relationship with a client, right? Can speak to them, take their instructions. I think that's something that's quite sacred and special for me is that you have a someone that you're helping,
Yeah.
through this
Yeah.
process. I also kind of love the underdog, being with the
Yeah.
underdog. That's one of the fun things for me is that you truly sometimes get to feel like you are that, you are putting up that defense against really the power of the state. If you have someone who's having a bail hearing where they have like no criminal record and you get to feel it's an amazing feeling getting to get someone out of jail and walk with them out of
Of
the courthouse,
course. It's very
after
rewarding. Yeah.
a bail hearing for which you prepared very hard. And even a bail hearing isn't a trial, it's a little bit um, kind of a scaled down version of a hearing, but there's so many moments that really affirm for me how meaningful and wonderful this work is. So yeah.
It is. And I mean, it's interesting though that you say you like the client aspect. For many lawyers, that's one of the most difficult parts of being a criminal defense
Yes,
lawyer because
sure.
it is a challenge managing the client and dealing sometimes with very difficult clients, depending also on the some firms will take on, like cases where many of the clients are either have struggle with drug addictions or mental health problems. And understandably, those clients can be more difficult than your average client or regular client. So client management and dealing with the client is a tough job. And it's interesting that you say you like that part of the job. I know a lot of people who used to be defense lawyers who became crowns because their answer was, I just got so sick and tired of dealing with clients. Honestly,
Yeah.
that's the answer that
Yeah.
I got from many. So just tell us a bit more. I'm just curious to hear more about that from your perspective.
hmm I think one of the things you really see is just how, like you and me, a lot of clients are, right? They may be walking through a difficult time um, in their life, but if you treat them like a real, person and you don't talk down to them, it goes a long way, right? Just
Yeah,
talk to them, like shoot them straight.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and for me, I think that's part of it pushes me to grow and to make sure that I'm being the best lawyer that I possibly can, the best communicator I possibly can. I think um, I remember very early on in my articling days getting to kind of shadow lawyers who worked with clients, not only on criminal files, but on others, family, child welfare, things like that. And seeing how important it is to speak in words that people can understand, right? There's a
Yes.
lot of legal jargon that's very alienating. And sometimes I say to people, it's like, there's no reason you would know that word. Like, no reason at
Yeah,
all. It's not a
yeah,
word
yeah.
that's used anywhere except the courtroom. So finding ways to make sure that I'm communicating in um, plain language that's easy to understand and that makes sense to people. I think that's all part of the challenge. Pushes me to be the best that I can. Sometimes those middle of the night station calls can be a bit tough as they are for, I'm sure, everyone who likes to sleep at night, but it's like that's just the nature of the work. So I do like that aspect. I can understand how I think it would be the same in any field where you do have clients that you work with because your clients come from all walks of life,
Yeah.
right? Some are young, some are a little bit older, some are affluent, some are not. Some struggle, you mentioned, addictions, things like that. People come from various challenges, but I try to um, ask people how I can best help them. If there's anything I need to know to help them best, right? If they have, and sometimes people will tell you something, I don't know, I'm hard of hearing, I have a learning disability. Sometimes I need things explained a couple times. It's like, cool, thank you for telling me. So, um, but yeah, I think it, as I said, pushes me to be better and to do the best I can for people because at the end of the day, I'm serving someone.
Right. And that's very important because that's
Mhm.
essentially what a criminal defense lawyer is doing, is that you're helping a
That's
person.
right. Yeah.
And you have to have that willingness to want to help someone and
hmm
defend them and do the best you can for
For
them
sure.
and to protect their interests. So
Absolutely.
that's really very nice. And it's very nice to see that you have that in you, Hannah, because that's very important for any criminal defense lawyer. So I wanted to ask you, so
hmm
you you wanted to become you wanted to get into criminal law, you know that you want to do defense, so now you're doing criminal defense. You were called in 2024, so you have about 2 years, a little bit more, like more than a year of experience working as a criminal defense lawyer. How are you finding it so far? Is it what you were expecting it to be? Is it worse? Is it better? Tell us, how's it going?
I think, it's funny. I had a hard time picturing what it would be like to be a
Okay.
defense lawyer when
Yeah.
I was considering coming. I was like, and one question that I would ask some of the lawyers with whom I spoke in my
Yeah.
2L and 3L years was like, what does your day look like?
Yeah.
Like what is the breakdown of how you spend your time? That was a valuable question because a lot of them, right, made it clear that all this can get thrown up in the air if you have a client or two who get arrested again,
Yeah.
right? And you've got to scramble to see what you can do to get them released. In some ways, it is what I expected, and in many ways, it's very different. Every day looks totally different. Some days are just spent running from one court to the next, and then you
Yeah.
hit 5 p.m. and you're like, oh my goodness, still have so
Haven't
many
started
things
what I
to
was
to
supposed to
get.
do today. Yeah. Like,
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. Especially if you have more, a piece of what I'll call deep work to do, whether it's drafting an application, something related to a charter application, or on the appeal front, there's that deep work of doing a factum and reviewing transcripts and things. So sometimes it is striking that that balance and figuring out how to get all your work done in the space that you do have, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you have an hour um, between courts while they're on lunch. So you try and knock out a couple of emails, you try and, move a couple files forward in terms of correspondence with Crowns, but then you might need to do a block of deep work a little bit later in the day. So in some ways, I think it's just hard to imagine, when you're training to become a lawyer, it's hard to imagine some of the ways in which your life will be defined by like court schedules and and bail hearings and plea courts and stuff like that. So every week honestly looks different. And I don't know if I could have pictured that it would look like this, but I'm um, pretty happy with it and pretty satisfied on the whole. You might do two bail hearings and a couple pleas and prepping for trial one week, and then the next week you're spending most of the week in trial. And so um, I think when I was younger, I wanted routine a little bit more, but now I am happy for the variety at this juncture, I think,
Well,
in my
it's
life.
difficult
So
to have routine.
yeah,
I find when you do criminal defense, I mean, maybe on the Crown side, there's more of a chance of having
yeah,
a routine, especially if you're assigned
yeah,
a specific task. But
right.
as a criminal defense lawyer, it's difficult to have, I mean, even
Mhm.
if you're trying to have a routine, I don't know, it might be more challenging, I find. But as you said, like you just get used to it, I guess, like you have
Mhm.
no choice but to adapt if you want to keep on doing this because this is
Yeah,
the nature of the
yeah.
job.
And
Um,
don't get me wrong, I do want to say it's like it is very tiring some weeks, right? It can be, I think it can lead to burnout sometimes.
yes,
I think that goes without saying, right? If you're in trial and you're so busy, like sometimes you're consumed with one file, right?
yeah.
Like when you're in trial, you literally that consumes, your whole day, and then you have to get caught up on other things that inevitably have to get dealt with and after hours. And so it can be very tiring. I don't want to sugarcoat it. It can absolutely be very tiring.
But how are you doing so far to achieve balance? Everything, like everybody's talking about balancing everything
Yeah,
right now, like work-life balance.
the
So
elusive balance.
elusive. I totally
Yeah.
agree. I mean, I'm finding it very difficult to have that balance. But what are you doing? What are your strategies to cope with that, Hannah?
I think honestly it changes by the week, you know.
Yeah,
Just a couple things that pop to mind. I do think getting outdoor time has been something that in the past, I've been very good at building exercise into my routine. And lately that's been feeling a little bit more challenging just with the schedule and stuff. But I don't want to lose sight of that because it is important to just take care of, your body and get enough
yeah.
sleep and all that kind of thing. We have a lot of clients all over the East region. So we're based in Ottawa, but we have clients in Cornwall, Kingston, Brockville, things like that. So sometimes I find, honestly, just because it's tempting to want to listen to, the radio or a podcast in a car. Sometimes what's been helping me lately is just having the silence. Like it's just letting your brain kind of be idle and not constantly sort of
Getting
thinking about
information.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I take
Yeah.
advantage of that time because I can't actually do, I can't be working during that time unless
Yeah.
it's taking client calls or something. But um, so I've been trying just to let my brain relax a little bit, and that's been strangely helpful.
Well, it is because I mean, there's a lot of talking, a lot of chatting, a lot of conversations, negotiations, and what we do, we're constantly talking to people. So sometimes silence gives us a break. It is
Yeah.
actually a break because
Yeah.
we're
It can be
always,
very overstimulating some days, right? Like if you're on
oh,
calls,
totally, yeah.
even bail calls with people's families and stuff to figure out that it's a lot of phone calls. It's
Yes.
a lot of phone calls. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, you get calls from your clients, and then when you're in court, you're talking to people, whether it's judges,
Yeah.
crowns, clerks. So we're always talking to people. So I do agree that like having a break is really very like silence is really very important.
Yeah. For sure.
Okay.
I would add one thing as well too, which is just like maintain your relationships with people in your life, your partner, your family. For me, that's very grounding and being reminded that you are a person outside of your role, in court. And some days are good in court and some days aren't so good and don't go so well, right? So it can be, I find, very helpful and just,
But
as I said, very
how,
grounding to
well
spend
then,
time with
but
people.
on
Yeah.
that point though, Hannah, how are the people around you, your friends, your family, how do
Hmm.
they react to your very heavy and busy schedule? Because, I
Hmm.
mean, us criminal defense lawyers, we understand. Like when you tell me that you're busy and you're working all the time, I totally understand. I'm the same. So,
Yeah.
but for people who are not in this field,
Hmm.
it's different because in criminal defense, I think we're just working all the time even means weekends.
Yeah.
So, but for normal people who have a normal life,
Yeah.
I mean, no, it's once you leave the office, your work is done, and you worry about it when you're back in the office the next day or next time you're in the office. But it doesn't work necessarily this way for defense lawyers. So
Hmm.
how because you said you don't come from an entourage of lawyers, right? Like you don't
Hmm.
have in your immediate family lawyers. How have they been dealing with your heavy and busy schedule?
I would say, so I do have a very supportive partner. He also
Yeah.
has a very demanding job, so he totally
Hmm.
understands and is incredibly supportive of, even if sometimes, I think people around us can shake their heads like,
Yeah.
how do you do that?
Yeah.
How do you do this? But at the end of the day, he is very supportive of the work that I do, and I'm very lucky to have that constant support from him.
Okay.
And then my immediate family, although as you put it, they're not an entourage of lawyers, they are also very supportive,
Yeah.
and they've gotten to, I tell them a little bit about what it's like when you have to take a station call and deal with a matter, in wash court the next day, weekend court. Um, and at the firm, like the associates rotate the on-call phone. So the after hours emergency line, we do rotate that, which kind of helps. You can still get station calls to your work phone if someone's just picking your name off the list. But in terms of the general after hours emergency line, we do rotate that, which is helpful. So it's not always going to one associate's phone. Um, yeah, I would say by and large, I'm just really lucky to enjoy the support of people. Again, I think you can't expect everyone to understand because people are different, right? And you have to understand that like that's fine that your choice wouldn't have been their choice. We're all different, right? So just as you respect their, choices, hopefully they also respect your choices and they can support you even if they don't understand you know, every bit of what you do, and even if they can't understand like why you made the choice to become, a
Yeah.
defense lawyer, that's okay. They can still be supportive in their own ways.
So, but tell me, Hannah, as a recent call, you've only been out like since 2024 as a lawyer. Um,
Mhm.
are there any issues that recent calls are dealing with or struggling with right now? Whether it's you or in general, that you're aware that is particularly difficult for new lawyers at the moment. What are the issues and the struggles of new lawyers?
There are probably too many to name, and I think like I guess a lot of them probably are things that most new lawyers will struggle with, right? When you first start, the number one, the pressure, like it's very high stakes work, right? If you do a bail hearing, someone's liberty is gonna hinge on that bail hearing, right? And yes, you can say, oh, well, at the end of the day, it's up to the judge, but I think inevitably you're very hard on yourself if it doesn't go the way you wanted it to, right? Um, so getting used to the high stakes nature of the work, the very demanding nature of the work. Um, I don't know if there's anything that can be done about that aside from the support that hopefully a new call enjoys from the people around them, and like we're here if you have questions. That's been very helpful to me. I'm lucky to be in an environment at work where I'm able to ask questions, and we all know there are dumb questions that need to be asked
Yeah.
when you start,
Yeah.
but people just being available, like, to answer questions. And especially on trial strategy, I think when you start, there's a feeling that like you lack the wisdom sometimes to know. But having people around you to bounce ideas off of and to ask questions that help inform the direction you take on a particular file is quite helpful. Um, let's see, issues that affect new calls in criminal law generally. Um, there's probably there's probably a number of them. I think there seems to be a general idea, a sense that I get that it's hard to keep new defense lawyers because, I think there is perhaps a pattern of attrition that they
Yes.
see with, new calls going to the
Yeah.
Crown's office. I see
Yeah.
a lot more. It feels like there are a lot more newer Crowns than there are newer defense
I
lawyers.
totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's just the nature of what defense lawyers do that seems more unattractive to people. I don't, or maybe it's some of the ancillary benefits that come from working at the Crown's office. I don't really know, um, but yeah, I think getting used to the pressure of the work, the high stakes nature of the work, that can be tough for sure.
And Hannah, have you experienced any kind of issues related to the fact that you were a female in criminal defense? Did you find the fact that you're a female defense lawyer uh, makes your job more challenging or not necessarily?
My experience has been not necessarily, and I
Okay.
totally understand that everyone has a different experience, but I can honestly say I've enjoyed excellent mentorship. I don't, I can't honestly say that I have felt that I have had a very different experience, particularly in a negative way, arising from the fact that I'm a female, a new female defense lawyer. So I'm lucky to be able to say that. Perhaps some people would have a very different perspective, right? But
Yeah.
I've been very lucky to have excellent, female mentors, male mentors, a range of people have been very, very helpful
Yeah.
in helping me get to where I am. So
And so far, like I know you're still a like you're still new, you're still learning, but so far, do you feel that criminal defense is it exciting to practice as a criminal defense lawyer, or do you feel like this is something that you don't see yourself doing in like 5 or 10 years from now? What are your thoughts on that?
it's definitely something that's endlessly, I have used this phrase before, it's endlessly fascinating and endlessly interesting and so, so meaningful. It's hard to imagine a more meaningful form of work that you could get to do. You get to walk with people through difficult circumstances, and help them navigate that and help them make choices like that they can live with, so um, it's hard to imagine. I mean, I will say no area of law besides criminal law is ever interesting to me. The world needs great corporate lawyers and great family lawyers and all that type of stuff. But it's just for me personally, none of those were ever all that
Yeah,
compelling to me. So as far as law goes, I do see myself staying in criminal law. That's not to say that it's not a very demanding job, and when people at different points in their life feel that they need to take a break from it or what have you, um, for personal reasons, it's like, yeah, I totally get it, right? It's not a job that you can kind of just like dabble in a little bit and do. It
yeah.
tends to consume,
No,
it
and it's
consumes
so
so much of
intense
your
that
time and
yeah, like
energy.
you have to
Yeah.
really be in it 100%. You can't just do half of it or just do some
No,
crim. It has to be
no.
fully, you
Yeah.
have it takes all of your time and attention. But it's very nice to see that um like you're passionate about it, that you like it and it was your choice since day one.
Yeah.
And that you're still, you're enjoying it and you're doing it for the right reasons, Hannah. And it's you like to deal with clients, you like to help people, and that's really very important when you want to be a criminal defense lawyer. So that's really very nice to
Hmm.
see that we have new lawyers who are, here for the right reasons and who are doing
I
the
hope
right
so.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, definitely.
Yeah.
Like that's the number one reason that you want. So you want to be interested in what you're doing, and you want this feeling of wanting to help people
Yeah.
because that's essentially what it's all about.
Yeah.
It's
When you
helping.
boil it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
and it's very nice to see that you do have these characteristics that make a really good criminal defense lawyer. And that's why I'm very happy that you were my guest here today on this episode for Law Break, and where I'm glad that I put the spotlight on you because you really deserve it. And I
Oh,
really
thank you.
hope that that people will learn from you and will be inspired by your passion for criminal defense, and that we'll have more and more young female lawyers like you who will join
Thank you.
the criminal defense bar, because we really need more people on the defense side.
Absolutely. It's the place to be, everyone. It's the place to
Yeah,
be.
I
I'm always like,
agree.
come to the dark side.
I
I mean,
agree.
not, just
No,
so to
that's the
speak, as a
light.
manner of
This is
speaking. Yeah.
this is where the light is. It's not the dark side.
I know. Exactly. No, I mean, it's awesome to get to do it. I always say it's a privilege to represent people and do the work we do. So, and I will say for anyone who doesn't, I mean, I'm sure anyone watching this would know, but Maya is a trilingual lawyer. I'm definitely not trilingual. So I always admire, it's really cool to see Maya serve so many different, types of clients in multiple different languages. And Maya is also someone that I see in Ottawa all the time, and was fortunate to run into her in the lawyer's lounge one day and so forth. So
It's
it's
like,
really nice to get to do this with you.
well, thank you very much. And it's really very nice to chat with people and to, like I really enjoy those chats because that's how we get to know each other. And it was really very nice to chat with you in the lounge. And every time I see you there, we always chat. And it's nice to have these chats and conversations. But I'm very happy that you shared that today with us here on Law Break. And I honestly wish you all the best, Hannah,
Thank
and I
you.
hope that you will stay in criminal defense, and we'll see you one day, like honestly, one of these, like big shine. I mean, you're shining now, but that your star will shine even more and brighter with time as you gain more experience and you have more years accumulated
Thank you.
um, in this profession. So thank you for your time, Hannah.
That's really nice of you to say. It's been lovely to chat with you. Thank you, Maya, so much.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of your Sunday.
Thank you.